Hello, my name is Shannon Clemens. Some call me the nomadic author, others call me mental. Why? Because I like to think a lot. Now, my main thing, you probably wonder why I look tired. Just a little sweat coming up, starting to bead up a little bit. It's because I'm sitting here at the fuel station, and I end up having to take a look up under the hood after I filled up the tank. And it wasn't no fun deal, you know, because when you filling up the tank, I gotta look at it as I need to find the cheapest places. But look, that's 140 gallons. I put in there, it cost me $293.95. That's all coming out of my pocket, not the company's. And so, outside of that, you're probably wondering why I got the hood up. Well, as I said, I was having a problem, and the problem was that I went on ahead and I tried to start my truck, and the truck wouldn't start. It'd just turn, but it wouldn't turn over. And so I knew something had to be wrong, because prior to this, when I stopped at another stop, nothing come on at all. I was just like, dang, this is 2019 truck. Something ain't right. And then I remembered back when I got my PM done at a Love's, they was having a problem with trying to start my truck too. And they couldn't, and for some odd reason they couldn't figure it out at first. It took them about 45 minutes to figure it out. And so here it is now. What happened is that when I got here, I went ahead and opened this up, and I said, something got to be going on. So I said, let me go run through a pre-trip real quick. I checked everything. I checked the fuses. Fuses looked good and everything. I checked all over, checked the belts, made sure the belt was there, and to turn the engine so it can start up and everything. All of that stuff was good. I checked the coolant. The coolant level is good too. So when I got to this right here, this is what you call the fuel filter. I moved it, the whole thing just shook around. I was like, what the heck? So I shook it a little bit, and it was so loose that it almost just flopped right off. You see how it got fuel in here? That's fuel inside of there. I don't know if you can really see it, but you can see the level. You see that it looks dirt, and then right beneath, right there, right where my finger at, it's filled up with fuel. But when I got in there, and if the whole thing was loose, wasn't no fuel in there at all. So I went on ahead and tightened it down. I looked around. I remembered that sometimes when air get into this, it'll cause that problem too. When air get into the fuel filter, so I had to turn right here. This is the release valve, and that's the reason why you see this down here, because it releases the fuel from in there, so it can take the air out of the system. Then you tighten it back down. And usually I have one of them little butterfly twisters that you can turn and it'll release it, but this one doesn't. So I had to take a pair of pliers and turn it to release it, and then I tighten it back up, and it still wouldn't start. And so I thought about it. It got to be a primer around here. So when I looked all over I'm checking from level to level to level to level, looking for the primer. And I remember back when I was at CR England, I had to prime the truck too. And it was way on the other side, so I went around there. I walked around the truck, and I looked in here, and I couldn't find a primer nowhere. And then I looked at that, I see that, I said, that's a button? Is that the primer? But then when I look at it, that's not going to the fuel. That's not going to the fuel lines at all. That's the exhaust system. So I walked back around here, and then I said, you know what? I'm gonna call it breakdown. I call it breakdown. Breakdown couldn't tell me exactly where to look for the primer. They was telling me what the old systems look like. It's like a little rubber ball. It looked like a little rubber ball, you know, like the stoppers for the medicine. It looked like one of those, and you just press it down. You press it, press, and it'll prime the engine and pulls fuel out of the fuel tank, pull it right along into this right here and through the lines. That is the fuel pump itself, and then it pull along the lines and put fuel in here, so that way you can know when it put some fuel in there and get it started. It also helps get rid of the air in the system. However, it doesn't, the pump, the fuel, not the fuel pump, but the primer button is not on. It doesn't look like the old one. See, this is one of the newer trucks. This is 2019, and so I had to remember. And you checking the system, start where you know where the fuel is at. These are, you know, this is the fuel filter, so something got to be bringing the fuel to the filter to filter out all the particles and the stuff. So these lines would be considered the fuel lines. So you follow those fuel lines all the way back, and you notice that one of them goes to this. That lets me know that's the fuel filter, or the fuel pump. Excuse me, not the filter, but the fuel pump. It's pumping the fuel from out of the tank all the way through the system and bringing it all the way through the system so you can keep it going. And so now, what happened is I had to think about it. Breakdown couldn't tell me what the fuel pump looked like. And so I said, you know what? It got to be on the fuel pump, because it's bringing fuel into the fuel pump to pump through the system and get it started. And so I figured it out. This right here is the fuel pump. It don't look like the old fuel pumps. It don't look like the old fuel pump, the old fuel primer. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause like I said, it looked like the stopper on the top of a medicine bottle. This one right here is a plastic piece that turns, and it loosens the threads. And then once it loosens the threads all the way, then you pull it up. You see that rod right there? That's because it's now it's setting to actually start pumping the fuel into the system. And trust me, you're gonna have to pump that son gun. I don't know how many times. I think I pumped that thing over 100 times, maybe a little bit more, till it finally started the truck, the engine of the truck. So now, when I come in here and I turn the key, let it run it through its diagnostic check, then as you can see, it starts right on up now. So I'm glad I don't have that problem anymore. Oh, let me cut it down. Cut it. I'm glad I don't have that problem anymore. But if should you run into that problem, you see this? Make sure that the housing is straight on there. It says on here for you to hand tighten it. Don't use no tools. So this this ring right here, you tighten it until it's hand tight. You have to use both hands to get it real tight. This piece right here, you have to make sure that's tightened down too. When you turn it until it click. But down inside of there, there's a O-ring, and there's also a spring. You have to make sure that spring is on there straight. Before you tighten it down, make sure that spring is on there straight. Then make sure the O-ring is on there, so it'll give it a good seal. And you tighten it down until you hear that click. Then you hit the fuel pump. I don't have to do that anymore. I can just tighten this. Then once you finish, you put that back down. You tighten it back down. Drop your hood, start the engine, and get the hell on. I gotta go. Holla at you.